Okay guys, welcome to my next video on Assetto Corsa. Today we're going to be looking at the Mclaren 650S Gt3 around Vallelunga. In this video today, instead of just doing the normal hot lapping video, I've done another video where I'm going to take the car with the setup against alien AI, because on this track the alien AI are extremely fast. They are pretty much on the limit of what you can get, so it's a good way to test the setup out. So let's get on with this, and we're going to go through to qualifying lap. Starting the qualifying session, obviously we're in 5th place with only 40 seconds to go over the line before we start our next lap, so we just got over the line in time to start our final lap in, and we really need to hit a good lap. At the moment, as you can see there, our best lap was a 1 minute 33.533, I think it is there, yeah, so it's not a bad lap at all. But on this lap we were pretty much level with the lap, as you can see, going through the up to the first sector now. Not a great deal of difference in the lap time at this point. Tyres all in a nice temperature range so far. No overheating issues there. Going down into this corner, a bit of advice for that corner when you're going down into the braking zone. Hold 4th gear when you're braking for quite a while before going into 3rd gear. It will keep the car much more stable when you're going through that corner without flicking that back end out. We were running traction control on its weakest setting, which we'll get through why when we get through to the setup. There is alternative ways to run this setup, and I'll go through which way's best and which way's more consistent, etc., when we come through to the setup at the end of the video after the race. So you can see now we're pretty much dead on the same lap as we had already done, the 33.533. So we knew we had to get a last sector that was pretty much perfect, but this bend here we managed to get a really good straighten the car up so well, and we got a really clean exit. As you can see there, we gained nearly 2 tenths just from that little exit. Going around this corner now, we're 2 tenths up, and we're heading very close for the pole position lap against the alien AI, which I can tell you is not an easy thing to do with running on the latest tyre model against these AI, as they're still putting in laps of the low 33. So we're going over the line, and we're looking for to see if what position we've got, and we've just about got 1st place. Went over the line. I think when I forgot to put the screenshot in, we were only about, I think it was about it was under a tenth faster. I think the top 3 were separated within milliseconds of each other. It was very close, and it's going to be a good race. I could tell straight away. It's going to be a hard race where I'm going to have to drive consistent. So I'm just going to run through a quick little replay of that lap now, obviously from the TV camera. There seems to be a few bugs in this game, and I don't know whether it's just, I don't know if some of it's steering wheel or some of it's in the game, but before I talk about it while this replay is going on, one thing I'm noticing, I couldn't put the replay from the TV camera overlapping my lap because they didn't match. The timing seems to be out on the replays. They're running faster than the actual gameplay, which is really strange. I don't know what's going on there, but the replays seem to be running at a faster percentage, so your laps are shorter than what they actually are on the replays, which is really strange. But I'm guessing it's something not right there. But another thing I'm getting, I want to know if other people are getting this as well. I'm using a T500, and sometimes I'm just driving and it'll randomly go through to the pause menu, or it'll randomly put ABS onto a different setting, or turn traction control off, or turn it on, or when I don't want it on, it's putting it on, and I keep seeing it coming up, and it's just randomly changing buttons. Only since the last patch though. It hasn't been since before that patch, and I'm not sure if it's my steering wheel or the game. But what I will do is I'll obviously go through to other games. I'll have a little go on Drive Club and Project Cars and test it out on that properly, hopefully today. But I just wanted to see if you guys had an opinion of whether you've had any experience with it doing this, changing settings while you're driving. The other day I was online and it hit the start button, and I didn't press it. It just randomly sent me off into the gravel and damaged my car, which was really annoying. Anyway, so we're going to start the race, starting in 1st position, looking to get a good start, running the traction control off for the start of the lap, and then we're going to put it on as we get through to the 1st corner. Running obviously with the weakest setting only. There's no need with this car to have it on anything higher. You just run it on 12. It's pretty much it runs basically the same, but it will help you out coming out the tight hairpin bends. So you can see there we just managed to stay in the lead. The guy in 2nd place did actually get a better start than us, but because obviously they back out a bit on the corner when they're in a group, they seem very, in my view, they seem a little bit too cautious now since the last patch. They don't seem aggressive enough. They seem to want to back out of overtakes and back out of going past people a bit too much. I think they've gone the wrong way with the AI on terms of that. The speed is still there. It just feels like they should maybe just give them a little bit more aggression in terms of overtaking. I did see a lot of people on Twitter, etc., complaining about the fact that they were trying to pull overtaking moves off, but I'll guarantee a lot of the aggression was because the aggression was coming from the players themselves, because I never really experienced any issues with the AI beforehand, and I think it's to do with how you drive against them. Because if you're driving on the wrong lines and braking at the wrong points, they're probably going to ram you. If I was driving and if I'm in an online lobby and someone brakes 100 yards before me when they're right in front of me, there is no way I'm not going to hit them, because it's impossible to judge. You drive to what the track limits tell you are there. I mean, you obviously, I do give a little bit of a space if I know someone's slower, and I normally do make sure there's space there to get out of the way. But I think that's what the issue is with the AI. I think they've gone a little bit the wrong way. But as you can see, anyway, let's move on to the race. We're putting in laps. In the first lap was a 39.5, which isn't the best lap. It's not a slow lap. It's by no means a stupidly fast lap for a first lap, but it's good enough to keep us in lead. And we've got a little bit of a cushion to second place, but as you can see, there's second and third are staying with us, and then there's a little bit of a gap, as you can see in the mirror, through to 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th, etc. But we're going to aim to try and keep our laps in the 33s, late 33s in the race conditions, and possibly going into early 34s. Obviously, you're going to have a few laps where you make a few mistakes. If we run a little bit wide there, but we get away with that. We don't lose the back end, and we manage to keep it on the track. And also another thing on this corner, there's so many ways you can take these corners on this track. It's quite a good track actually for experimenting with, because the tight hairpins, you can either go in deep and then try and hit an early, like go really deep and try and aim for the apex as much as you can, then run it a bit wide, or you can brake a little bit early, take a wide line in, and then like square the car off, as you can see on these corners. There's so many different ways, and you can see it on the delta when you're up or down on a lap. It's quite interesting to see. You can also use it to do some overtaking moves, because obviously if you're going to run in late to a corner, you've got the option of going down into first gear on a lot of these corners, and it will just grip up a bit, and you can then do the late apex and square the car off. It's quite interesting the different moves you can do on this track. Be interesting to have a proper league race against people. Hopefully once these private lobbies start getting some league racing going up, I'll be looking into either Apex online racing. Hopefully they'll do a league race on it. And be good to race with some similar type of speed people and see what it's like, especially on tracks like this where I think you get a lot more alternative lines on project cars to other games. You seem to be able to take advantage of different types of lines for overtaking, which I really like. You see now we're how far ahead are we? We're not really pulling away. We're keeping that gap static, so they're matching our speed basically now. There's no difference in our lap times. You can see we're just basically, you can see now in 4th, 5th and 6th there seems to be a bigger gap than there was before, but first, second and third, myself second and third, it's pretty much stalemate between us. It's the AI on this track. This is why I chose this track to do it on, because I didn't see the point of going in an online race racing against 10, 12 opponents, and then 5, 6 of them back out because they're about 30 seconds behind, etc. And then I normally find that you don't really have that good a race on a lot of these tracks online. It is, sometimes you come online, you find a few fast people and say 2 or 3 fast people, and you can have a reasonable race where you just got to keep on it. But this race, testing against alien AI on this track, you can push as hard as you can and they will pretty much stay with you. It's not like Spa where you go to Spa and you can beat the alien AI by a good few seconds a lap if you really want to. It's not that hard on that track, because they take some of the bends like a Rouge. They really lift off the throttle for a Rouge. Generally seems to be like certain corners that the AI seem to be able to take, but this track, it doesn't seem like there's a corner that they can't really take at a good speed, so they're pretty much on it throughout the whole race. So it's a great track to, if you want to test yourself and your car, a certain car with a setup. I don't think it matters which car, to be honest, whether it's a road car, GT4, put them on this. Always, one thing I would do is always put them onto a same car race, because if you're starting racing in a lot of the other cars and you're in 650 for example, you're going to be well faster, because 650S on this track, I think so far is the fastest car. I think the Hurricane GT3, the Nissan's a little bit closer. It's probably over a second off the Nissan GTR. I think I've got it into a late 33 with the Nissan GTR, but it can't hit a low 33 like I did with this car. Z4 should be reasonably fast round here. I can imagine that being a very good car round here. Well, on the PS4 it should be. Not so sure on PC, because comes to another point on PC. You saw I was practicing with, I think I was streaming about 3-4 days ago on the maybe longer, 4 or 5 days ago on PC on Spa, and that car builds heat up on its tyres on PC a lot more than it does on PS4. Other cars feel very similar. Doesn't feel like there's much difference between them. They feel a reasonably same grip levels, not too much on the steer, but that Z4 gets more on the steer, which I think then builds the heat up more on PC. I do need to go back to the PC version and check the setup, try and make sure it's exactly the same as what I was doing last night on the PS4. But on the PS4 Z4 had potential to get into the 2:17 running on the latest tyre model. Now I can't see myself doing that on the PC unless it's something within my steering wheel settings. It's something not right, or it just seems really strange. Because another thing was on PS4 running no traction control, coming out some of the corners, the back end would become really loose, like it had more power. On the PC you could run no traction control and there was basically no issues with traction at all on the track. The car just seemed to have a lot more grip at the rear, as if it had less power on the PC. It's just a really strange thing that I found. It doesn't matter what the temperatures are on the track, the PS4 will hit pretty much 2:17 round the lap, and it doesn't seem to overheat the tyres, not even close to what the PC was. So I need to have a good look at the PC, make sure the setups are exactly the same as what I had when I was doing it. I'm going to go through it maybe later today, have a little look at the PC version of the Z4, put it to the same setup that I've got the PS4 version of the Z4, and have another go around Spa. I'm going to go through my steering wheel settings, make sure everything's right with my pedals, make sure the accelerator's hitting the exact points it should be, because something just isn't right with that PC. Unless I personally think the physics are slightly different on the PC still. I don't think they're 100% matching PS4 to PS4 to PC. I think there is still a difference between these setups on this game, and I'm guessing they're going to try and bring them closer together the more they patch this up. But I was under the understanding now that the PS4 tyre model was the exact same as the PC, but I find that very hard to believe after playing both on the same track and how much faster the PS4 version was. It was at least, I would say, at least a second to a second, and probably about a second, because I think that I could have got the PC version of the Z4 into the 2:18, just about 2:18.8 maybe. But maybe with the setup that I've used last night, it might be a bit faster, but I need to check it. But I still think the PS4 version's minimum half a second faster than the PC on Spa with the Z4. Not too sure of the tracks. I haven't got this car to test it out on the PC around this track. It's a DLC car, so I do need to buy it, but I'm saving my funds to buy the Porsche packs, Porsche Pack 2 and the Ferrari pack, because they're the next DLC on the PS4, so I want to get them so I can stream them early for everyone on the console, so you can see what you're going to get. So I'll be doing them about a week or so before the release, maybe a bit nearer, we'll see when it comes to it. Anyway, going back to racing, see there we're in the 1:33s, we have a little moment there going over the curb, pushed a little bit too hard coming out of that corner, but managed to save it, kept the lap reasonably together coming out the corner. It looks like we're going to go over the line on a low 34, which is still a reasonable time. We seem to be hitting 33s most laps, but see lap 10, and obviously the one point you got to think about now is the tyres are going to start slowly wearing off. They don't seem to wear off too much now. It's just enough probably to maybe bring a couple of little errors in and just maybe upset the rhythm by a few tenths a lap. But I think if I would have just kept it without the odd mistake like there, I made a little mistake there running wide and it lost me a bit of rhythm. I think we managed to get it back a bit on lap 9, but the rest of the laps seemed to, I think, follow around the 1:34, low 34s. Again, it wasn't over a second. It was still within basically 5-6 tenths of our best lap, which is pretty much I'm happy with. As long as I don't go over like that barrier, which I always try and give myself, I'm pretty happy. And obviously we're still in the lead, so we didn't really need to push too much. It looked quite comfortable at this stage. We seem to have a bit of a gap to second or third place, but still they're in our mirror, so it shows you just how fast they are on Alien AI on this track. That's why I always say use this track if you can to test the setup with it against Alien AI. It's going to give you a good battle, even if you're not, like I say, at the maximum speed you can drive. They are slower. They are a bit slower, some of them. So if you can hit a 34, it's still a good little race you can have with these cars, because Some of the slower AI on this race were driving, I think, 34.5s and 6s in the race, which is still a fast time. If you went online, you're not going to see many people hitting 34s, I don't think. I've only seen a couple of people in the 34s so far, and very rarely seen anyone in the 33s. It's not an easy track to get the lap in, but something about this track I actually find it reasonably easy to get into a rhythm on this track. It seems to suit my style. But anyway, it's going over line. What was that last lap? I think it was a 34.6. So you can see there that mistake. It was about 8 tenths. It was actually about 8 tenths off our best lap within the race, but that's pure. Well, just under 8 tenths. About 7 tenths it was. That was purely because of that mistake where we hit the curb, but not a massive deal. You can see now we're back to being up on our best lap at this point. But I'm sure we lose a bit on that last sector again where we need that extra grip from the rear tyres. But you can see we're starting to lose a bit of grip. But one thing I'd say is they are still in good condition. As you can see that bar on the right, it's still showing green on the tyre temperatures. There's a little bar that goes down on the right. If not, I mean, most people will know this, but that is your tyre wear. What you've got left on your tyre wear. You can see next to the tyres there's a little green bar. Once that starts going yellow, that is when the tyres are starting to they're still drivable, still should hit good laps, but they start losing a little bit of performance. And you just need to keep an eye on that when you're in a race. Obviously when we come to doing league races and we're doing like 30, 40 laps, etc., I don't know whether the soft tyres are not going to last the race, so you're going to have to start putting the mediums on, maybe the hard. And to be honest, it probably won't be a bad thing to do rather than pitting, because as far as I've tried, the mediums don't lose you too much time on this game. It's only a matter of 10th or 2 a lap, it seems, with the medium tyres, and harder tyres, not too sure. They may be a little bit, they may be getting on for more of a between half a second to a second a lap. So we're going around the track now. The last lap was back into the 33s. I think this lap we did make a few mistakes again, pushing us a bit further down. As you can see now, we're on lap 9 or 10, and we've only got a couple, obviously one more lap after this to finish the race in first place, which is, it's a good thing. If you can get a setup to beat Alien AI on this track, you know you've got a good setup for online. Obviously if I kept practicing, I'd probably pick up a bit more speed. I'm pretty sure I could get into the 32s in qualifying with this car. It would just require, obviously, keep practicing like you would do with a league race, where you go on every day and you just keep getting used to the track, where to put the power on and stuff. But I'm happy with a low 33 for the latest tyre model on this track with this car. We're going to go on to setup. Obviously once we've done this race, I'm going to give you guys the full setup that was used and go through some of the changes. But if you have got the original setup that I did for this car, it'll be on my channel somewhere. I'm going to go through it again anyway, so there's no point. If you haven't got it, there's no point, but if you've already got it, that is pretty much what I used as a base setup for this car around here anyway, and just made a few changes. One thing that I'm going to say to people about this is, one thing I've noticed with this latest tyre model is you can run a lower downforce now. It seems like you can maybe knock 1 or 2, at least 3, maybe at least 2, and then maybe 3 off the downforce. I think for this setup we ran either 0.4 or 1.4 or 1.5. I'll have a little look in a minute when we go through to it. I'm pretty sure it was 1.4. It could have been 1.5 though, but I'm pretty sure it was 1.4. And I think our old setup was 0.6 or 0.7. So there is a difference. So what I've done there, because you're getting a little bit more understeer with this tyres, is with the aero we've given the front end a little bit more grip to help us out with that understeer, but then took a little bit more off the rear to help us out with the understeer again. But also, because you can't carry as much speed through the corners now, took some off the rear to give us more speed down the straights and on acceleration. So you're countering that loss of time with the aero slightly. You're not going to gain all the time back from what we run when we were running on the older tyre model, because it's just too much time to get back without losing speed in other places. But you can get it back by just making simple changes with the aero and bringing some other changes in, which we'll go through in a minute. But there's not too much I had to change, to be honest, with this car around this track. It still felt, even using the exact setup that I had, it still felt okay. It was just having a little bit of understeer issues through certain corners, and it was stopping it hitting that low 33. You're able to get into a late 33, low 34s pretty easily with it, but to push for that final second, you do need to make the final changes that I did to the setup. So we're going to go over the line now. last lap, a few little mistakes again, but I was just trying to keep it on the track because I was getting a little worried I'd make a mistake and lose that first position. But went over the line, first place, 10 lap race, exact same scenario you're going to get online, 10 lap race, etc. And we win that race fairly comfortably, and we know that setup's going to be good. So we're going to go into the setup now and go through the changes that we made, what you need to look at, etc. One thing to note here is you can see how fast they were. We didn't actually get the fastest lap within the race. It looks like the second place bloke actually got the fastest lap in the race, so it shows you how fast they were. So basically we're going to be running 69 brake balance. What you can do in the race as well is put that up to 69.5 if you're getting a bit of oversteer on braking. Now, aero 1.4, like I said before. Now the gearing, make sure you take the gearing down. I think slightly altered from before the patch because obviously the difference in cornering grip and the top speed, etc. Final ratio, as usual, same as the gearing anyway. Differential, we've put that up to 15 and 45. Now, if you're going to run no traction control, you can knock that down to 10 and maybe put it to 50 on the differential, on the deceleration differential, and you will pretty much have the same handling car as 15 and 45 with traction control on 12. But it just feels a little bit more consistent when you're using the 15 and 45 with 12 on the traction control. Tyre pressures, putting the left side slightly higher on the tyre pressures just to help us out through some of the corners where we build heat up on the left hand side. Cambers lower, a little bit lower than what we had before the patch, and I think we slightly altered some of the ride height on the car as well. So make sure you take the setup down. Let me know how it drives, and make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Thanks again for watching, guys.